Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar. Happy Friday, everybody. This is Mike. Hope everyone's doing well this weekend. Going into a holiday Christmas weekend. This is my 2023 top MP. Thought it was going to be hard to get it down to 10. I'm struggling to get it down to 15. Tell you the truth, there are a lot of great releases this year. So we're going to be looking into these. We're going to be looking at all of these. And we're going to do a couple of honorable mentions on top of that. But yes, a great year for Masterpiece Transformers. And we're going to talk about this coming up. Alright, so I guess we're going to go with 13 and 2 honorable mentions. So that's my 15. And with that, we have Mega House, and these three are going to tie for number 13 on my list. And here's the reason why. Not that they are the greatest figures made, and not that they are painted extremely well, and not that they are built extremely well. It's the fact that somebody's making GoBots, and they're making them the way I want them made. I want them to be almost exactly like the originals, except bigger and transformed similarly, but have upgraded articulation. And that's all I want out of GoBots. I don't want them ultra extremely complex, and I don't want them to veer away from what they should look like. I don't want them stylized. Mega House is doing this. They got more to come. Support every figure they make. Next up, we have FansToys Recorder, their blaster, and the cassettes. Going to lump this all into number 12. And I think that this is only a slight marginal improvement from the Deformation Space. Side by side, they look very similar. And if you pulled Deformation Space out of your collection and put FansToys in, or vice versa, over time you wouldn't really notice much of a difference. But I do want to say that I think this presents better with the paint. So it's got a much better presentation because of the paint. And I do like the toon look. And so with that, either one's fine for me. I'm currently displaying this one on my display, but I'd be happy with the Deformation Space one also, which is why this one's lower on the list. The cassettes are good. Again, the same story. They present well, but we're going to see here the next one what I like more in cassettes. Okay, maybe not the next one, because number 11 is FansToys Outrider. And that's a good figure. And to me, it's the best one they've made for the Trailbreaker. And yes, this year we did get the Takara out also. And the thing about the Takara one is, I think it's a good one. I think it's perfectly fine. And there's also a cheaper KO version of it out there. But the Takara one, it as good as it looks, the FansToys one still wins out for me. I just like the way the FansToys one looks a little bit better. I think the Takara one is a little bit more toon accurate in some ways. But just side by side and looking at them, yeah, I like FansToys better. And I have to admit it. So they win, and I really don't want to say I'm going to be categorizing another Takara one. The Takara one's not going to be on this list because the FansToys won it. And we get into Mastermind Creations, the MMC, and they call this one Tempo, and Steeljaw. Now, so this is the one that I do like better than the FansToys. I like the size. I like the articulation, everything you can do with it. I like how it feels like it brings out the character. I probably would like the SDCC one with the back metal wings and a couple other paint upgrades a little bit better. I don't have that one yet. But either way, it doesn't matter. As long as I've got this one, I'm still happy with it. And then the repaint to the Voltron looking one. Really a good figure. I look forward to all these that come out from MMC, and I'm going to be staying up on top of every one of them because I like them that much. And I just really feel like this is correct Masterpiece scale, and I know a lot of people don't, but I do. And I'm going to keep up with the FansToys ones too. So there it is, and good for comparison, good for fun. And I wish this had better paint and presented better. That's my only complaint, I guess you could say. Mastermind Creations MMC Tempo. Now let's have a change of tempo for the next one here, which is 9. Metagate, number 9. So we have Air King. This is their take on Terrorsaur. And I think it's a fantastic figure. I like both modes. The transformation is a little bit complex, and but once you kind of conceptualize it all together and get it together right, it works really well. And it's heavy. It's hefty. It's got weight behind it. It's not. It feels like you get your $110 worth out of this thing. It doesn't feel like you're getting overcharged for it. The engineering's there. The weight's there. The paint's there. I do wish it was painted brighter red and matched the cartoon a little bit better. That wasn't what they were going for, evidently. And it's got a lot of texture on it. I would have been happy if it was smoother. Anyway, What they were going for was something that was screen accurate and real world, and they achieved that, and it works. And I'm happy to have this in my collection. I did review quite a few Beast Wars figures this year. This is my top one, and I'm really only going to have one Beast Wars on here, and it won. Okay, so for number 8 on the list, I have ModFans Ruler, and I think that it's really cool that they made this, that you made a transforming roller. They made it in 3 different color variations. The transformation is not very hard. It's a very solid little figure, and it works in both modes very well. I like it, but I also like the price point of $35 to $42, $35 to $42, depending on which one you get. For whatever reason, the green one is the most expensive, and it's odd because it's the last one. They've already paid for the mold. They've already made 2 of these. They're making the 3rd run. Should have been maybe even cheaper, but maybe they did less of the green one, and they don't plan on it selling as well. Who knows? They made 3 different options. Really cool they did it. I don't think anyone else will. This is ModFans Ruler as number 8. So number 7 on my list is going to be the MakeToys Coneheads, and I think that the MakeToys Coneheads are pretty cool. They're the best Coneheads for a G1 representation out there right now. Now, the reason they're on this list is because Deformation Space seems to be out of the game. Takara seems not to be making them for whatever reason, and I would expect Takara to make theirs eventually. But right now, as it stands, these are the best looking ones, in my opinion. Now, they're using an old mold, but the old mold, I think, lends itself better to the characteristics of a Conehead versus a standard Seeker. Therefore, it is a good figure. They look good. I wish they were painted. I wish a little bit more presentation, and there was a little bit more heft to them. They're not really that lightweight, but there's not much die-cast in them. But really, it's hard to beat these, and right now, nobody else is beating them. And the shiny plastic still looks really good on the shelf. So with that, MakeToys and their Coneheads, all 3 of them, they win. Number 6 on my list, we are going to have the Variator and Huffer, and I'm adding Parkour into this, which threw off my numbering, so my numbering kind of went out of whack. I was going to put Parkour higher, but I'm going to make them all equal. And the reason for that is because they're all replacement figures. Figures we have decent ones of already. Parkour, I think, is a bigger upgrade. It's the biggest upgrade for these mini-bots this year that we've gotten, so it probably should stand out on its own. But I'm just going to let it stand out here. These all look great, but there's other options out there that are still decent, and all these upgrades, I'll just give it to them, though. They win. They're on the list because, in my opinion, they still beat out the competition, even if it's just a small margin. The paint and presentation, the heft, the diecast, the solidity of these figures. For mini-bots, they are pricey, though. They're all $100 plus figures, but they work. So, this Variator, Rig, and Parkour. Alright, so number 5 on the list would be Star Toys. Star Toys came out with this Blitzwing out of nowhere, and it looks fantastic. And looking at it on my shelf right now, and I have it next to FansToys figures and an X-Transbots premium one, and even though this isn't painted head to toe, the shiny plastic on it fits in really well with all of these well-painted figures. So it works. It looks beautiful on the shelf. It is very G1-esque, and it does everything I needed to do. And I actually didn't think that we were going to get one that looked better than the KFC Ditka until we got FansToys. And then that brings the question, where is the FansToys one? So I think the only thing that could dethrone this is the FansToys one, and it's going to be a tough match between this one and FansToys, especially if you're trying to compare it to the cartoon animation. I'm sure FansToys is going to veer from the animation a bit, so this is still probably going to win in the animation department. But Star Toys and their Blitzwing did a great job. FansToys and their Fioravanti. No, X-Transbots and their Fioravanti. Number 4, X-Transbots. This is the first of the mini-bots, Omnibots that we're getting from the X-Transbots. It is a great one as an overdrive. I love these things. I love these figures. And I've had a lot of fun reviewing this one. And then, of course, getting out my old vintage one. That was fun, too, to do comparisons. And it's kind of inspiring me to want to go complete my vintage ones. But this, it's a little bit tricky with the transformation. You've got to be careful with it. And people have said they've had QC issues and broke theirs. Mine's not broken. Mine's not scratched. Has a premium paint job. Looks fantastic on the shelf. it feels very hefty, and all the joints hold, so I'm happy with it. The fiddliness with the transformation to get it into an amazing looking alt mode, and having all of the features that we had back when we were kids with the G1, it's just outstanding. So Fioravante, definitely worth the slot number 4 on the list. Okay, number 3 on the list is Magic Square's Optimus Prime 2.0. This is a great figure, and I don't want to get another Optimus Prime every year. I don't want to flavor of the week, flavor of the month, flavor of the year, Optimus Prime coming out in all the different scales. And I haven't even picked up their 2.0 in Legends yet, but this one looked that good that I had to pick it up. And I know the one in Legends is allegedly the same design, more or less, but this one in the promo pics looked like it had a huge panel on the back, and it was really distracting me in the pictures. But in real life, in hand, it doesn't look bad, and also in this picture, it doesn't look bad. That was the only real complaint I had, that and the fact that it's not truly painted, it's more or less shiny plastic for the most part. But they did make an X version, an EX version, or metallic, and then they've got another one coming out, and it's people already have that one, but the toy version that is also pretty shiny, so it'll be interesting to compare that when I get that one in. But yeah, Magic Square's Prime 2.0, excellent figure. Now, X-Transbots is taking the number 2 slot with the Punch Counterpunch, or their James and Bond, and I have to admit that this is a great looking figure. A lot of people complained about theirs. A lot of people did have QC issues. I have one of them, the US version. One of my shoulders is a little loose, so it really can't hold the pose, can't hold the gun up very well. But the Japanese version fixed that, so I'm not exactly sure how or why or what's going on with that. But having both, I want one of each, and they're on different shelves. They look fantastic. In fact, when I look at my display, my eye goes to them, whichever shelf they're on. Maybe it's because it's that deep blue that really there's nothing else that matches that level of deep blue on the shelf. Maybe it's just color, but it still looks fantastic. And this is also one of those characters that I wasn't into as a kid, but as an adult, I was more fascinated by it and the engineering behind it, and I was curious to see how they do it. I think they pulled it off well. Here's the other thing. Nobody else is going to attempt it. So I got a couple of honorary mentions here, and FansToys Jive, and they're coming out with an EX, and in this case it looks to be like a toy repaint that's coming. So this figure is another one that's a slight upgrade from what we've gotten in the past, and I gotta say it still wins as the best of the ones we've gotten in the past. But I didn't have a whole lot of problems with it, but it is not fun to transform at all. And the other thing is that a lot of people have said they've broken theirs. And I understand the negative stigma around the character, not the character itself, but the figure, this particular figure. But it looks really good. And I'm happy with it. It's mine in my display, but I didn't give it a slot simply because I feel like it's not that big of an upgrade, but it is still an upgrade. The MakeToys one, there's a lot of people out there that are still happy with theirs. Then the X-Transbots prosecutors, the Lepulpe and the Lepulpus. There's 2 different versions, and I got both. I've got to say, though, I don't really like the electronics. I think they pulled it off really well in this. They did better than their Dr. Egg, and I think it executes just fine. But I don't ever use them. Since I've done the review, I haven't used them since. And so for me, it's like, it's a waste, because I'm not going to... I have to take it out of my display for this stuff to spin all crazy. I don't have room in my display for it to be displayed spinning. Some people do. So for me, I would rather see a lower price point on it and no electronics. That would have been fine for me. But anyway, what they did worked, and it's executed well, and it looks good. And our number one is Takara Skyfire. Now, this is number one because of my love of the character. Number 1 because the transformation is relatively simple. Number 1 because it's the biggest Takara figure that I know they've made, and yet it's not the most expensive. It's half the price of the one it's standing next to, the $500, $450 Optimus Prime. And I didn't have any real QC issues on mine. Transformation went fine, and it looks great. And in hand, I like the way it looks better than pictures. I actually thought I was going to get it in hand and like the FansToys more. I feel like they're different and going for different things. It's hard to like one or the other, but I like this one, and I think they did a great job with it. And having it in hand, it is a very impressive figure. Makes my number one. And of course it makes my day, makes my year, makes my millennium, because Skyfire from the cartoons finally made by Takara. It looks outstanding. So what do you guys think about this list? I had planned to put some reissues on the list too, because I had never had them before, but I decided there's just so many other options. I left reissues off this list, but let me know what you think in your top 10 or 15 of Masterpiece Transformers for 2023. Like and subscribe, and Titanium Hanger out.